So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Vered now to kick off the session today. So Vered, over to you.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Maria, for the great introduction. So let's just get started. So in recent years, companies are showing increasing interest in the benefits of data. We can clearly see a trend where companies are collecting their data and try to get some solid business insights out of it, or at least try to. Data actually enables both analytical power by analyzing the past and gaining new insights, and also predictive power by predicting the future and planning ahead. Sounds awesome, right? Well, it is awesome, only if the company can truly invest the effort needed to get to that point. And in this case, an enormous effort is needed, both economical and cultural. While this effort might be a non-issue for corporates or technology-oriented companies, for most of the companies, this is a big deal and a real barrier. They can get real business value out of their data, but how to collect this data? Where should they store it? How many compute resources are needed to process this data? Those questions and many more are the kind of questions companies are facing when starting the data journey. Cloud computing technology is a game changer, no doubt about it. The cloud is a real enabler for innovation and growth among companies from different industries. Today, the cloud vendors provide amazing solutions for data analysis. And I think that for the first time, the journey to the data and beyond is truly feasible. You don't have to be a corporate or technology company to do something meaningful with your data. So today, together with my wonderful colleagues, Adi and Tzvia, we will review the options provided by Microsoft Azure, like Azure Synapse, Azure Data Explorer, also known as Custo, and some other new announcements. So let's get started. How are you girls, by the way? How are you doing during the Corona times?
Maybe I can start. Doing well. You know, when everything started, I think I was same as everyone else, kind of shocked, didn't know what's going to happen, how long is it going to take. But I quickly realized that I should pull together a list of goals that I want to achieve, either if it's a career goals, family goals, you know, healthcare goals, all the different goals that we can do. And I just said, you know what? I have all this time. I'm anyway at home. So let's just do it.
I love your attitude. This is perfect, I think. It's a real opportunity for doing other things and investing in other opportunities, for sure. And Tzvia?
Yeah, I think that the new situation of COVID-19 was one of the most efficient period in my career. People were more focused. Unfortunately, there is no limit between life and work, so we can work whenever we want, whatever we want. And as you can see, I'm working from my living room, so it's a little bit different. But from the personal aspect, there is a nice combination. You can work a lot and do great projects side by side by spending more time with the family because we are all together. Yes, we may see one of my kids getting into the room, but this is way of life, you know. The COVID-19 break the rules, break the borders.
For sure, it's. I think the flexibility is amazing, for sure. So let's get started. Adi.
And exactly, this flexibility is exactly the things that cloud can solve to many organizations. And I believe that by the end of this session, we will see how flexible and supportive the cloud is.
For sure, we will get there. So Adi, let's just start by understand why data. I mean, why everyone are talking about data?
Wow. All right. So data is the new currency, right? Everyone wants data. The more data you have, the better products you can produce, the better insights you can get. And maybe I can share a little bit about myself. So I I did a master's degrees where I specialized in cybersecurity and machine learning. And I also worked for Deutsche Telekom Labs as a machine learning researcher. And one of the things that was, the main blocker for doing any research was data. It's like, yes, we want to do machine learning research. We want to improve a lot of the product. We want to develop new things, but we need data. So every project we got, either if it's from the government or from, an enterprise or anything like that, the main question when we enter the room and when we enter the meeting is, what is your data? How does it look like? How can I get access to it? What are the governance concerns regarding the data? I mean, is that a customer's data? Is that people data? What does it mean? And this was the main step for every machine learning module or every research that we did back in the labs. Quickly, I realized that, hey, actually dealing with data, doing data exploration before applying machine learning modules is kind of its own world. So I start learning about Hadoop, and I start learning about MapReduce, and Mahout was a big thing back then. It was basically a machine learning implementation of top of MapReduce. And I start using it, and during my research, because I needed to do machine learning research, and I got huge amount of data, and I couldn't just let my machine run for a whole month, right? I need to get results. So it started there with distributed machine learning, and later on progressed into working with Apache Spark. But the main thing is the machine learning part wasn't the main concern. The main concern that blocked us from doing projects was the data. I remember meetings over meetings over meetings of, where's your data? How does it look like? How can we get access to it? What are the limitations? So I'm happy to say that almost 8 years forward, definitely investing in data made its profit. So understanding the different usages of data, understanding how you can benefit from storing that data, understanding the governance part as well, understanding the tools. I mean, there's so many things that we can do related to data. And now, especially with the pandemic and the remote world, it's exploding. I mean, everyone communicating through online channels. Communicating through online channels means, there are bytes running over the network. That means tons of data are being shared, tons of opportunities for companies as well. IoT devices like smart homes, smart buildings, drones, anything from that world also adds more and more data, and we see data growing. Smart cars, medical, fintech also. A lot of industries relying on data, and I think, yesterday we talked about data strategy. It was a really interesting conversation. It's like, what is the right time to build your data strategy? Well, if you're now talking about it, it's already too late. I mean, if you don't have a data strategy, you have a problem. And the basic reason is because you can't retrieve data that wasn't saved. If you don't save your data, you can't retrieve it. It's not like taking an architecture and breaking a monolith into a microservices. It's something that, if you don't log it, if you don't keep it, if you don't maintain it, you lost it. And if you lost it, who knows what you could have done with all this data and moving forward. And that brings me back to what the remote world and the fact that we need to take data-driven decisions. And we know that every day is different than the other day. Like in the past, we used to do some data-driven decisions, or 3 months, 4 months, 5 months of data were sufficient. Today, we know with COVID-19, we have to act fast. We have to look at the data and get insights and results every day. So real time also plays a huge part in how we do infrastructure for working with our data. And I think this is like some of the reasons why I see data is exploding and why I see data is everywhere, and people can't get enough out of data and constantly talking about it, because to do all this analytics, to do different products, personalized products, you have to start with the base, and the base is data.
For sure, I totally agree. Actually, it sounds great, if I were a CEO or a CTO or I don't know, one of the stakeholders of a company, and I want to start my journey. I want to do what Adi Polak just described. So, Tzvia, what do you think? What should a company which wants to start its journey toward data do it alone, okay? Without the help of, I don't know, cloud or other services, external services, what this company should do? I guess there are many aspects which affect such a decision.
So
what do you think?
Okay, so I believe that first of all, data is everything, and there is never too much data. So once a company would like to start with the data, just start to collect everything. Before you think what you are going to do with that, just try to log everything, to attach everything. It's super important. Once you will have a better data strategy, you will be able to collect the right information. And as we mentioned before, there is never enough information. You know what you know today, and you know exactly what you know yesterday, but what tomorrow will bring you, it's a new whole story, and you need to be prepared. So this is the strategic with data. Just collect, and later, once you will need it, you will have it. And with this strategic, actually the cloud is very helpful, because with the cloud, you have endless limitation on the storage, and later which resource or which service you can apply on that bunch of information, whether you will decide to run time analysis or a prediction or any other type of understanding, or even analysis of historical aspects. You will have the data, and you can apply and ingest the data, or just to create external table on top of this information, and to have the ability to understand your information. Because the big challenge, and here sometimes you do need help, is how to move data into knowledge. And I believe that in many of the companies, this is the real challenge, and also the conceptual challenge. How do you start to collect information? So first, once you understand that you want to collect information and data, start to do that. And then, if you have the ability to understand what is the information that you would like to collect from this data, you can start to do. And you can start and work inside the company. But if you have the feeling that this capability is not that mature in your organization, don't hesitate to call to consulting, and which is specialized with data organization, data understanding, and to build a data strategic to your organization. And by moving to the cloud, it's very easy to collect your information. So as I mentioned before, first of all, there is no resource limitation. You know how much data you have today, maybe gigabytes, maybe terabytes. But one of the stuff that happened to many of our customers, that once the COVID-19 situation happens, in a day, they move from terabytes of data a day to more than 50 terabytes a day. And there is no way that in physical on-prem solution, they could have a way to support it. But by having it on the cloud, they easily adjust the resource amount, and they have a fully support with their customers.
Actually, when I listen to what you say, I think it's sort of a mission impossible, for a company whose main focus is not necessarily technology, to do to go to such a solution, like a full solution, a real solution, and to get real insights. It's a huge effort. So I guess that those companies and other companies, which I don't know, maybe want just to move fast, we look for alternatives, and we have a wide range of alternatives. it starts, as we mentioned, from on-prem solution where the companies develop by their own and actually handle all the resources, the physical resources, and etc. But there are other solutions like using the cloud services as a platform, maybe managed services in the cloud. So the alternative that we will discuss today are those suggested by Microsoft as part of the public Azure cloud. So before we dive deeply into Azure data services, the alternatives, if you will, Adi, how can a company move toward a good data solution, which is not necessarily bound to Azure or other cloud providers? Are there other alternatives, like tooling that can be installed on-prem or others?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I want to refer to what you said. You and Vered and Tzvia also refer to on-prem. So I want to share my experience with on-prem. I used to work for a company we had multiple data centers on-prem, and we processed really huge amounts of data, and I was part of the team building the infrastructure and later on the SDK and the services for processing terabyte of data. And one of the challenges that we had is that we had to order the hardware a year in advance. And that means predicting how much we will need a year in advance. So if there is booming and the salespeople are doing their thing, they're selling, they're doing great, and there is a booming in the amount of clients, sometimes the infrastructure just can't support it. I mean, and if it's not your business, do you really want to be in a place where you need to be the person that puts down the hardware and everything related to it? So that kind of brings me to the joy of using the cloud, right? With the click of a button, you can provision a resource, you can save things to blob storage, you can do whatever you need to do to scale up quickly. With the cloud, without worrying about, thinking ahead in advance, a year in advance on what's going to happen. And we see it now with the COVID-19, because data has exploded, that a lot of companies are now shifting to the cloud. And the reason for that is because they used to be on-prem, everything works great. They used to predict the amount of hardware that they're going to need, although it is a challenge. I mean, once the product manager comes in and say, hey, I have this great idea for a new product, but then the engineering director goes to them and tell them, well, you know what? We don't have enough hardware resources. Let's, push it to the next year once we get the reservation in. So that's not the case anymore. The case was now that we now get so much data with COVID-19. Everyone is shopping online. Everyone is doing a lot of things online, and supporting the existing customers became an issue. And this is where we see a lot of people move to the cloud. And the move to the cloud, it's slowly rolling. It's something that takes time because it requires education. It requires education for the engineering team, for the software developer, the DevOps, the architect. Not all of them know how to move to the cloud. So sometimes they hired a third party. Sometimes they work with the vendor companies. Like, for example, in Microsoft, we have the solution architect, and they work directly with clients. They help them put together the architecture. They help them do the first steps into getting into the cloud and getting their architecture built in the cloud. But the mindset that still people are struggle with is the lift and shift. People think that whatever they build on-prem can be just lifted and shifted to the cloud. And we now know it doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work like that because each cloud has its own SDK, its own services, its own behavior. And if we just think about lift and shift and dropping our on-prem basically on the cloud virtual machines, we're not going to reach that far. We're not going to fully utilize all the services that exist in the cloud. And that's going to bring me to the conversation of cloud native. And what is cloud native? Cloud native means, we can work with the VM, slightly similar to how we would work on-prem, but not exactly, because, hey, we're not managing everything there. We're still bounded to what the VMs gives us. And this is the IaaS, the infrastructure as a service. Second layer is the platform as a service. Someone give me a specific platform to work on. For example, HD Insight, they give me Hadoop environment. Perfect. I work in data. I know what Hadoop. I can start rolling from there. Yes, but there is some SDKs. There are some DevOps work that need to be done. There is some adjustment. All right. And then there is the software as a service, right? So everything is built in for me. I don't need to think about storage or compute or anything like that. I just provision the service and I start rolling with it. And that requires a different mindset, especially for people that comes from the open source world, because sometimes the open source can be slightly different there. I mean, for example, if we would work with Azure Databricks, and we know Azure Databricks powers, Spark pools and all this good stuff, but hey, is that the Spark that we used to? The Spark that we already used when we work with open source Spark? Well, no, it's an optimized Spark just because they have the ability to optimize the Spark pools and the Spark clusters for us, right? So we get better performance. Sometimes we might even get slightly different things, and also different clusters that has already built in a lot of libraries that we need, right? So this is like one of the things we see. There's a lot more different open sources that people are trying to kind of push into the cloud and work with the cloud. For example, you can see Apache Kafka, or you can see RabbitMQ as well. I mean, I do need some messaging system. I do need some pub/sub abilities. Can I just deploy it on the VMs? Yes, I can, absolutely. It will result in my DevOps working many hours, or I can use existing services on the cloud. So this whole conversation is not only about, getting the solution architect or getting the consultant, is actually changing how engineers work inside the organization. It's also going to change how product managers work inside an organization. And I had a fantastic conversation with a friend who's now they're onboarding to the cloud. He is a product manager. And the thing he said, well, now I need to learn the costs. Because every time I'm going to the engineering manager and I tell him, hey, I want to build this great service, I want to build this great product, then it's not like, oh, we don't have capacity because we can't really, we don't have enough computer storage. Now it's, how much is it going to cost me, right? What is the cost model? How are you going to justify the cloud cost for it? And I think it's a good question to ask, and also something that people need to adjust and learn. Because each service brings its own unique cost model to the table. And that means that we need to understand how it works. We need to understand how our services are running. For example, if I'm paying for compute, I need to predict what's going to be the compute. So as a product manager, I need to think together with the engineers, how much compute will I need to support a specific service, or to support a specific customer, right? So it's a whole different conversation. So going back to the start, and I think Tzvia has more information to give there. It's not lift and shift. We need to learn how to do it. We need to know what we are doing. We need to consult with the right people. And we also need to have a plan for the engineers, for the product managers, for everyone who works in the company, into how we are going to onboard everyone to the cloud.
I would like to add here a little bit different point of view. I'm working for Azure Data Explorer Custo, which also bring a new concept to the market. It's not only not just moving to the cloud, it's also a new concept that doesn't exist on-prem. But one of the things that I am hearing from my colleagues is that the benefits by moving to the cloud, that they can focus on their daily basis and their daily business instead of maintain resources and machines and servers and data stores and even databases. The good ways by moving to the cloud platform is that most of the time it's fully managed services, at least fully managed infrastructure. And if they don't know how to move to the cloud and they need help, there are great consulting. And there are many parameters that they need to consider as part of the procedure, but they can do it step by step, and they don't need to do everything in advance. One of the things that I see with my cover that they are starting small. You know, in COVID-19, I met with hundreds of customers that in one day their business grow in hundreds of percentage, unfortunately decreased dramatically, and they needed to do some adjustment in the way that they're used to do business. And by moving to the cloud service, any type of cloud service, they didn't need to be aware and concerned about other stuff. And again, all the people that in the past used to maintain the stuff, they were free to do other stuff. So yeah, there are many parameters that you need to consider. But on the other side, starting small, don't move everything to the cloud on the first day. You know, you can take one small pilot, one small new or existing project, move it step by step, learn the guidelines during this procedure, during this specific project. And I see most of our customer, Azure Data Explorer customer, very long name, used to start with one small project. And then the ones that move from on-prem to the cloud, I mean. But after they discover the endless of possibilities of the cloud, then they move more and more project, more and more a strategic project. So yeah, you need to consider many parameters, but if you start small, the problem becomes much more achievable. What do you think about that, Adi?
Absolutely. I love the hybrid approach where you can have, you can use multiple clouds together and kind of structure. And actually in Microsoft, there are services for it as well. There's the Azure Arc where you can manage, different machines and different services from one place. And this makes it very handy for people who decides they want to use two different data centers or combine the on-prem with a specific cloud vendor. Yeah.
And also, let's take, for example, Azure Data Factory that help them to synchronize between the on-prem and the cloud. There are many there are many options how to start, but frankly, it's simple, easy if you are starting with something that you feel comfortable with. And later, get a big rock and work with them. Vered?
Yes, I totally agree. And Tzvia, you started to talk about Kusto, or Azure Data Explorer. You talked about the benefits of using cloud services, but actually, what is Azure Data Explorer? Can you shed some light about this service? Who should use it? Why should I use it? I would love to hear some more. Yes.
So actually, Azure Data Explorer, codename Kusto, was internally what started 7 years ago as internal project, only for Microsoft engineers. A group of 4 people look for a solution how to explore that enable them to stream big data, terabytes of information, petabytes of information, and to have access almost immediately with the ability to run super complicated and complex analytics queries on top of this information. We look for a solution inside Microsoft and actually also outside Microsoft, and they didn't find something that's suitable for their needs. So they built one. This is the idea with developers, when they can build whatever they want and plan. So they work to have a solution that is a big data analytics cloud platform that is optimized to interactive ad hoc queries. What does it mean? First of all, big data, the 3V. It works with velocity of ingestion, velocity of data. A lot of data is ingested all the time. It's not one-time ingestion, it's all the time, streaming of information. Variety of information from different sources, on-prem, cloud, different cloud services, also a variety of structures, different data structure, and variety of formats. And also volume. Azure Data Explorer was built and designed to support big data, meaning, let's say, 0.5 tera and up to dozens of petabytes of information. It's an analytics platform. You can run from the simple stuff of filtering and sorting, and also to unions and joining between tables, databases, and even cluster, but also complicated stuff of running models of machine learning and have anomaly detection with time series analysis. So it has rich capabilities to run any types of telemetry queries on top of your data and get access and get results in seconds, even milliseconds. The freedom to access your data in near real time, from ingestion to query, and then to run complicated queries and to get the results almost immediately. Not like in the old days that we run queries. I used to be a database DBA. And I remember that when I run complicated query, I needed to wait to go to the kitchen, grab a coffee, have a small chat with my friends, and then get back and see that it's still running. No more. You get responses very, very fast. And you know what? And you can add more, and we use intuitive query language, which is called Cousteau query language, also support SQL, of course. But the Cousteau query language is, it's very intuitive, and you can add more and more layers as part of your investigation. And you don't need to plan everything in advance. You just need to understand your data and to add more insight to your queries. And and if you say that you are getting to the wrong direction and you need to go back, you have the freedom to do it because everything is very simple. So you just spend a couple of minutes and now you can go back to the same rhythm. So if we are talking about the democratization of your information, is also the ability to make mistakes, because all the great stuff in world was made for mistakes. And all the great stuff that you can understand from your data, all the knowledge, all the great things can start with exploration of the endless type of information. And also, one more important thing is that Azure Data Explorer is a fully managed service. So why it's so critical to mention it? Because first of all, it's a fully managed service from the platform. All the resources, yes, like any other Azure service. It also has auto-scale up and down, meaning that if in the COVID-19 situation, immediately in 10 minutes or in a day, your business grow up by 400%, great. Your service will stand up and increase the cluster size to support everything with minimum customer impact. Your business will continue to work without any impact of your customers, and you get a very nice user experience. Also, on the other side, if your business was dropped, and instead of paying extra for something that you don't need anymore, your cluster size will shrink, and only the actuals required you will pay only for the required cluster size. And also, it's a fully managed database. What does it mean? Do you remember the days? I remember when I was a DBA, when I worked as a DBA is forever. I remember that whenever I needed to define a new database, I needed to define what is the relationship between the tables, what are the right partitions, the indexes, primary keys, foreign keys, all those stuff, which help me to create the optimized performance. Everything is done by the service. Data is ingested, managed by the service. Once it's in the service, we spread the data into different partitions. We call it shards to provide you optimized access during runtime and to optimize your cluster resources for the maximum performance. And also all the indexes per data type, per data table, per size, everything is managed by the service. And parallel queries, parallel users. People ask me, what is the maximum number of users that can run in parallel? What is the maximum number of queries that we can run in parallel? No more limitation. Maybe the time will be a little bit adjust when you have more queries, but in most cases, it has minimum impact, and your cluster can add more instances to ignore this impact.
Wow, this is totally amazing. I think auto-scaling is a key factor in cloud services. I think it's just amazing feature, let's say. Tzvia, can you just shortly describe, I don't know, just provide some information about a successful use case or a company that uses, without names, of course, just sort of a use case which is very successful. Just the people that are listening to us will just, can understand what you are actually talking about.
Okay, so actually I have so many great stories, and some of them you can meet at the Microsoft Customer Stories site. Let's start with, I will try to do it fast, but I would like to mention a few. So first of all, on the first week of COVID-19, I got an urgent email from one of my consultant peers, let's call it, and he told me that one of the biggest fashion company is about to be is under crisis due to the new situation, and they need help. All their services are on-prem at this situation, and they need to do an urgency movement to the cloud, and specifically they need to have the ability to do a fast response on their data. Since in COVID-19, everything became, things are changed in minutes and seconds. So they would like to have a streaming, near real-time access to their information and to make adjustment in real time to their data, to their knowledge, to their information. So one of the biggest fashion company that I believe that many of us love decided to take the advantage. And on the very first week of COVID-19, they took project by project, even though it was a crisis. They have started with the one of the biggest production services, and they move it to the cloud on top of Azure Data Explorer. It was a really dramatic movement because it was win or break, and in a day, let's say it took them less than a week to make this movement, because they do it really smart, and they work with one of the Microsoft consulting, I don't remember his name right now, and they move it, and after a week, everything came back to life, and their business growth by thousands of percentage. Also, we see Daimler, which is the biggest truck company in the United States. They decided to deliver all their IoT information, which everything about all their trucks in near real time to Azure Data Explorer. And by having this information, they can make adjustment and take decision beforehand. By having all their information streaming to the cloud all together, they can make adjustment to reduce cost. And also with the algorithm that we have of prediction and anomaly detection, they can see whether everything is on routine and what is coming next, and to make the adjustment about it. So again, there are dozens of stories that I would like to share, but we are short with time, so I will cut here. I will stop here.
Thank you, Tzvia. It's actually interesting. I think we should have a whole session about Custo. But Adi, I want to hear some more about some more services from Azure that are actually handling data analytics. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of services. Last week, there was a huge event with Satya and Amy Hode and Julia White and more of Satya's LT, where they announced Synapse general availability. And if you don't know what general availability means, it means this service is ready to use in production worldwide for everyone to consume. And for Microsoft, it's a huge thing. I mean, it's a multi-year project that enables people to run analytics in the cloud in a simplified manner. There is built-in serverless SQL. There are built-in Spark pools for everyone who needs to use it. There are built-in SQL pools if people like to work with SQL. There's a built-in Azure factory if you want to start moving your data from place to place with an approach of a no-code, low-code, which means you don't have to write any code. You just need to look at the UI, scroll a little bit and define the different places where you want to copy or to move your data from one place to the other. It's great for people who getting into data and also for people who wants to do different analytics part, but they don't want to handle all the infrastructure. So this product just went GA after multi-years of work, of a whole team working on it, designing it, thinking about it, tweaking it to make it the way it is. So it was a huge announcement. And also another great announcement from last week, this is the Azure Purview. And Azure Purview are now in public preview. So public preview means it's not generally available yet. So now you can actually go into the Azure portal and start looking at it and playing with it and see how it works for you and how you can utilize it. And it actually helps you to discover the data that exists in your organization. So if you have a lot of data laying around, and you're not maintaining it in one place, maybe you don't have a DBA, maybe, data is not your business or IT is not your business, then this tool can help you discover the data that exists in your organization. It helps you to catalog it and put it in a place where you can make good use of it. And also it's going to help you with compliance assistant, which is super critical. There's a lot of compliance like GDPR, and other PCI and other ISO compliances that people need to adhere to. And sometimes we collect, there's some data lying around in the organization that we didn't even intentionally collect it, just someone saved some file somewhere that can be sensitive data. And this tool is going to help a lot of people and a lot of companies do right with their data. So two great announcements. Also, Synapse connects to Azure Data Explorer. There's a connector through the Spark pools that was recently developed. There's also a connector to Cosmos DB, which is a geo-distributed database. Yeah, and there's a lot of great connectors. Also Power BI, if you want to get a quick look into the data and what's going on with it. It also connects to other clouds. So if you have data that sits somewhere on other clouds, let's say S3 or something like that on AWS, you can analyze it using Azure Synapse. So you can access your data and start analyzing and working with it. So a lot of great stuff. I highly recommend going and reading and understanding what it means, and also understanding what it means for data, because that means a lot of the things we used to be afraid of data. I mean, hey, do I need a whole team of data engineers to do this job? No, there's a lot of services that are going to help you. Just like Tzvia said, we don't need to think about the scale. The cloud is going to do it for us. We only need to think about the query, the logic, what we want to achieve out of that data. Well, everything is already managed for us by the cloud.
So thank you, Adi. I think it's truly amazing. Yeah.
Something important, that everything is connected and integrated with Azure Data Explorer custom.
Yes, Adi just mentioned it. Yes, it's amazing. Another great announcement. And I think that all the cloud providers are pushing toward a multi-cloud approach. This is also exciting, and I think this is we need another session just talking about a multi-cloud approach. But I just want to ask you, girls, if I don't know, a person wants to get into this data stuff, how it starts? Where do you recommend to start? I know that there are certifications. provided by Microsoft, or other courses, lectures, and maybe I don't know, go to the university to learn. I don't know. What do you suggest?
Well, I will argue that today you don't need a fancy degree to get into data. What you need to do is to understand the basics of SQL, and then using the right tools for it, right? So you need to use Azure Data Explorer or Azure Synapse or all the other tools that enables you to run this SQL on the data and start to get a feeling of what's working with data means, right? There's a lot of average means, and there's a lot of functionality that's related to statistics to get insights. So this will be the first step, in my opinion, into getting the feel of data and how you can start working with data. And for that, also, we have Microsoft learning paths that are completely free for you to take advantage and start learning new things before you go into certificate, before you put money down into investing in it. Highly recommend first try the free ones, see how you feel, see how it flows for you, and then decide on the path you would like to pursue in tech.
On top of it, MS Learn is a good start, and Microsoft works with many vendors that produce free online courses that explain on the data environment and the data concept, and then give you a hands of each and every service that exists. In some of the services, there are also free online courses from beginning to advanced topics. So I am a true believer in self-training, and maybe this is the reason that I recommend before you're going out, start to dig the internet. There are tons of free materials that can help you there. Microsoft helps a lot with good materials, but I believe that there are others.
What do you think about the certifications, cloud certifications? You think that there are some benefits of taking the exam?
So we're saying it depends on the country of where you are, but we're definitely seeing a shifting in people doing less degrees and more focusing on certificate and courses that are known to be high quality. And the reason for that is because tech evolves so fast, and what you learned 5 years ago might not be relevant now. Like what I learned about Mahout, it's not relevant for me anymore. No one's really using Mahout the way it was extensively used a few years ago. So I think certificates are good to show that you learn the subject, but I think projects are better because it also shows about your curiosity, your passion, and also how you think when you come to design a project, and also how you think when you start working on a project. So it gives a better understanding of who you are when you want to apply for a job. Degrees will always be there, but I think we will see a little bit of shiftment into how people are learning and how people are taking their degrees. We're seeing in the States, some universities are now doing micro degrees where you can take multiple courses across 5 or 10 years to reach the state that you want to reach to. But again, different. Every country is slightly different. Every culture is slightly different. Every company in every country have their own requirements from candidates as well. So be conscious of the culture regarding tech in your environment. Know what the companies are looking for. If there's a specific company you want to join, let's say you want to join Microsoft, then check out what the people knows there. Are they doing certificates? Are they going for degrees? What different people works there, and what is their background? It's always good to kind of get an inspiration from other people's career path, and also think how it can reflect your own career path in the field. So yes, definitely. If you want to go with certifications, if you want to go with projects, if you want to go with degrees, there's a lot of places, but be mindful of, what you want to do. Is that really your passion? And also what your goals, which company you want to work for. Do you want to start your own company? Where in tech you want to see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years?
One more thing, as one of the person that build the certificate exam, for
Connection is, we lost her. Tzvia?
Yeah,
Yes.
hopefully
Okay.
she'll be back.
Sorry.
She'll be back. No worries.
I got some issues somehow. So there is a lot of work that is done beforehand to verify that all the relevant information that the person needs to do and to learn and to practice is taken as part of the learning material and also as part of the question in the certification exam. So even though that in some countries, of course, degrees are super important, if you would like to start, this is a really good way to verify that you touch all the right angles in these specific topics.
Thank you. So I think this is it. I had a great time. I learned a lot. We will also provide the links, okay? We talked about a few services and other recommendations, so we'll provide the links. Thank you very much, girls. And see you. Yes, Moria is here. Okay, Moria is not here. So Adi, Tzvia, yes?
And we are now hiring. So
sure.
if you think that Azure Data Explorer is interesting, apply a resume.
In Israel or globally?
Mostly
in Israel.
It's mostly in Israel, but we are a global business, so there is a spot in almost any country. We are looking for the best. We are not looking per location.
Okay, so thank you very much. You're very welcome to connect via LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. I am open for new connections. So thank you very much. Thank you, Adi and Tzvia.
Thanks.
Thank you. It was lovely to